Have you guys heard of landed that are way below 1 million? Especially with this kind of land size, 3,000 plus square feet at 500 plus thousand. And I'm not kidding you, has been only recently transacted less than 1 month ago. 3,900 square feet land for 800,000 only. Today you are buying a 4-room HDB flat more expensive than this. So how amazing is that? For those of you who are wondering, this article came out today, 27. Okay, not exactly today. Today is currently now, as of me recording this, is already 28 May. But just before I go ahead, is just to share that whatever I share over here is just based on my own point of view. So make sure you do your due diligence. And unfortunately, if it offends some people over here, it's just my own point of view. Because I'm more thinking from a rational, financially logical point of view. That's why if you have emotional attachment, then in the first place you won't be in my channel. So I don't think it actually affects. So anyway, just a disclaimer. This article came out on Monday that residents worry about future with 10 years left on lease. If you think about it, why do you have to wait until your lease is only left with 10 years? Then you start worrying. I think it's a little bit more on the short-sightedness that people, you just buy whatever you want. Of course, who doesn't know you stay landed. 3,000 plus square feet is not small. It's almost like a semi-D kind of size. So imagine staying semi-D for a few $100,000 only. In Singapore, it's almost unheard of. But I think there's a reason why certain things remain cheap. Okay, by now, I think all of us are very cautious that if certain thing is cheap, there must be a drawback. What is the pros and cons? And then we zoom in. This Mr. JC bought his landed in 2007 for 400,000 only. 2-story landed, semi-D, 3,600 square feet. Now today you're easily looking at 4 or 5 mil, that kind of thing, and above, depending on the location. But why is it so cheap? Because the lease is going to run out by August 2034. There's only 10 years left. Any possibility of extending, or we have to go? Okay, maybe this guy is not married, but whichever it is. Some people say not married easy to move. It's not like that. Some people maybe they have a lot of other things, so let's not go into that. There are 144 of them, terrace and semi-D houses. 70-year lease beginning from 1964. Last time they belonged to this rich tycoon over here who passed on in 1948. So this land was sold after he passed on. The land ultimately probably belongs to his family. That's why it's managed under the trustee. And it belongs to them in freehold rights. So I think it's important that whatever property you buy, you need to know who does this land eventually the ultimate owner it belongs to. Are you living on the 99-year land that is carved out from a freehold title? If that's the case, who is the owner? Will the owner want it back or not? When in such cases, we have seen in a few other developments already, when there is an eventual owner, ultimate owner, that is maybe not the government. So government probably a little bit easier, I'm not sure. Hard to say because depending on the changing users. But probably government will be, I would suppose, a little bit easier and more compassionate. But if you're talking about private owners, maybe, I just want this piece of land back because I'm going to sell it for another 99 years in the future. Maybe, let's just say for sure, for instance. Then they may not be willing to extend the lease for you because they want to sell it again and they can sell it at a much higher price in today's market. Why would they want to extend for maybe just maybe 10 years lease, 5 years lease, and then save the trouble? Maybe they can take the money, go and invest in some other things. There are a lot of complex decision-making process behind the scenes because there are a lot of parties. Okay, later we will talk about it in a short while. The thing is that all these owners, they want more clarity because they don't know, are they supposed to move out? Are they going to be stuck here for the next 10 years or whatever it is? There's a lot of uncertainty. So they hope that there's going to be option for them to top up. Now they're stuck in limbo, cannot plan ahead. So now the issue is that the thing I don't understand is why would people put themselves in such a situation where you know that, I mean, can't be they go and buy this landed last time, of course it's cheap, but they don't see that, eventually 10, 20 years down the road, we're going to be facing this problem. Cannot be, right? Who doesn't know that you buy a landed in Singapore for this kind of price is a steal? Of course it's a steal, but what's the drawback? Why are you only coming out to face this problem in recent years? Of course, they say maybe last time 2021, 2022 have been trying to talk, but you should have considered this problem in 10 years ago. Why do you have to wait until now? So are you going to wait until you end up in hospital before you buy insurance? I mean, not thankfully for me. Last time I ended up in hospital a few times, but my very first time that I ended up in hospital, thankfully it wasn't a big bill. It was a few $100s, but to me as a student, it was painful as hell. And that's why from then on, I decided to buy insurance. I knew that if someday, for touch wood, I'm going to end up in hospital again, I won't be able to afford. And that's why I buy insurance. But these people is like, you're going to eventually end up in hospital, but you're not buying insurance. And then now they wait until they are in hospital already. Then they are looking at, how are we going to settle this? How are we going to fork out the medical bills? It's a little bit too late to be putting yourself in that kind of situation and hoping that other people are going to be compassionate about the situation. So the thing I will feel that we shouldn't be taking it for granted, especially in our generation, is that we cannot take a lot of things for granted. We cannot be like, why is the government not saving us at the end of our lease? Then where are we going to go? Are we going to sleep on these streets? All this should have been done on your own. It's your own. You shouldn't put other people. You shouldn't make other people responsible for your own decision. I think it's fair enough as an adult. And what for all these these people are really quite advanced in age already. They should have known already. Why do you have to leave your fate in other people's hands? I mean, if you're gonna probably pass on in the next 10 years, okay, it's not that bad. But if this guy is only like what? This one is 67 years old, and then the other one is like, this one is 76 okay, maybe a little bit older, but some of them, they were just 51 years old. And if you're likely going to be staying for maybe another at least 20 to 40 years, then you definitely must plan ahead and not put yourself in that kind of situation. Mr. JC says that if he sells his home, he may not be able to buy a room or home of similar size. If he rents an apartment, he may eat into his savings. I think it's not fair or it's really not fair if if people. I mean, if he make this comment, But if you make this comment and expect people to be compassionate about his situation, then I think it's not fair to the rest of most of us Singaporeans who are staying in a HDB, because nowadays youngsters are splashing. Not even talking about central areas. Youngsters are splashing $600,000 to $800,000 for like Punggol kind of area, 4-room. So why don't they deserve to stay in a landed? Why? Because I myself is in that kind of situation. Why shouldn't I deserve to stay in the landed when I can just pay a few $100,000? So these guys are like, I want to pay cheap, and I want the size, and I want to enjoy, and I want people to give me my lease that I want, that I have, that I can enjoy, so that I can continue staying in this house, even though the lease is supposedly run out. Then it doesn't make sense, because it's not fair to the rest of the population, Then everyone also want to, let's go guys, because we are going to sell HDB and all move into all these limited, very low lease landed, because eventually somebody is going to bail us out. I don't think it's fair for people to make this kind of comment and expect other people to be compassionate. Of course, if he thinks that way, then he is not expecting to be saved by all these lease extension or people bailing them out. Then I think it's fair enough. But if you expect people to be to take care of you for your own decision, come on guys, the future generation, we have to think of the future generation. If the government at the end of the 99 years, especially in your HDB, you're buying let's say the Tiong Bahru ones, later we'll touch a little bit more, and your 99-year lease has run out, then can't be, we are young, we bought when we are 20 plus years old, and then we only left with 40 plus years old, and then now we are 60 plus and we are homeless. Then how, if the government is going to keep extending, give you for free or whatever, bail you out, then is it going to be fair for our future generations that are going to be fighting in future challenges? Because inflation is high, everything is going to be more expensive, and then everyone is trying to fight for their next generation to make their own life easier, and then you see where I'm going, it's like never ending. So I think it's only fair that people take responsibility for their decision. If you want to enjoy the size and if you want to enjoy the low price, then you have to be able to bear the responsibility for it and not make it like as if it seems that other people are trying to make it tough for you. So now it's like, they're consulting other representative or the beneficiary, legal counsel, all these kind of things. And the other one is like, they went to talk to the MP, all this. So it's like, you really gone to all these parties. Everyone is supposedly there to help you. And it's not like the MP, I think they are busy lah. They are busy with whatever other things lah. So, but then now they had to settle a problem. So, this Mr. Eddie decided not to wait. He was glad he sold his 4,100 square feet semi-D for 800,000 last year. I think this guy is a smart one lah. He decided to cash out because he knew that there's no point in trying to be a hero and would then wait and left stranded. So at least he is a little bit more further thinking. Although he went on to go and buy something that what was it lah? So I can't remember lah. So he went on to buy something that is a little bit longer lease. Similar size home with a longer lease. So probably not like a freehold or 99 year, but at least he is thinking further ahead than those that are that even maybe let's say just bought in recently. So I hope that his buyer won't be complaining about their situation for spending $800,000 in year 2023 lah, left with only 10 years. Because if you think about it, it's quite akin to like rental, but unless you are really willing to buy this property, because the thing is that some people, or rather the more rational ones that are, I would say, investor, they want maybe not to stay in a nice landed location or whichever it is. They'll buy a rational property for investment. Then they go and rent wherever they want to stay. And this is quite common for people who are able to stay financially rational. But some people, in this case, they buy to stay and then they justify it as rental. But the thing is, you are not using your precious name in Singapore, which you are not liable for ABSD, to go and grow your money. So essentially, this guy that bought over from Mr. Eddie is going to be losing, assuming that there's no lease top up or whatever kind of extension. This guy is going to be losing $800,000 in 10 years. That means $80,000 in 10 years. And it's not like he has another place for him to grow a property. This guy is even stronger. Wow, this guy even more power. This Mr. Cole. Apparently, all this dwindling lease does not hinder all these interested buyers. This Mr. Cole, 51 years old, bought with 30 years left in 2021 for $750,000. Then after that, he bought another one for $500,000. To him, it's a calculated risk. I'm like, okay, fair enough. Later, we'll do a little bit of calculation to see whether is it really a calculation risk. 3,300 square feet semi-D house, he stays in it. The other one, he rents it out. Okay, this one is quite interesting because probably in this case, either he go and buy under his name, the other one under his wife's name. Then they don't pay ABSD. But if he pay ABSD, then it's gonna be another cost to cover. And it's not gonna be cheap. Later we'll do a little bit more calculation on this. There are some of them they don't want to move because they are gonna be, if he's gonna die here, then he's gonna die here lah. That's what it means lah. Okay, for lack of a more, pardon my blatant word. So anyway, Mr. JC tried actually to sell his house, received an offer. He said it's not enough to cover rent. So eventually he rejected the offer. So like I said, I think it's not fair to expect. It's like today I'm telling you, my condo I bought at 1 point something mil, and then I expect people to buy over at 4 mil. If not, then I'm not comfortable. How is this a fair statement, right? So anyway, let's do some calculations. That guy probably bought, I would say, I don't think it's this unit lah, but probably somewhere around here. They didn't do this close where ma. So assuming that we have 500,000+, about 2,500 square feet. If you go and rent it out, that means you are looking at maybe $4,000 rental, because this one is a smaller, 3,600+, 300+. And then average for this kind of size is about 3,000 plus 4,000 last time. Now it's higher lah. But if let's say because the rental has been coming down, if let's say we use maybe about 5k or 4k, maybe it's 5k. 5k 1 year is about 60,000. If you add 10 years, it's about 600,000. So that means how is this an investment when you're just barely covering? Because there's a lot of other costs involved. You still got maintenance costs, you still got business duty, everything else. And if the average monthly rental drops to 4,000, then your 10 years you're just going to get back this amount, and then it's even lesser. So how is this going to be a calculated risk? I think that is where people don't really realize that the further down the road, how is it actually going to be? Because the house is getting older, there's going to be a lot more maintenance, and then as a landlord, you don't just receive your rent in full. Sure enough, maybe if you buy full cash, your full cash maybe could have been put to work elsewhere that is working harder for you in more lucrative avenues. But this guy over here choose to put his money in this landed, and maybe at the end of the 10 years, he's just covering back the $500,000. Because you still got a lot of other maintenance issues, and then you still got property tax, income tax, whatever, all these things are. $500,000 could indeed have, even if you put in fixed deposit, even if you get 3 years, 3% a year is like 15,000 a year for 10 years. You get 150,000, and I think even the fixed deposit guys are getting better returns than this. So basically, you are subsidizing the tenant to stay in your house. I don't know, I'm not that generous. I mean, I would like to think myself as like a generous person, but I don't think I'm that generous to be sponsoring another person to stay in my house while that guy is growing his money elsewhere. So I don't think this is exactly a properly calculated risk, in my opinion. Of course, if somebody can have a more clearer numbers to convince us that how this actually makes sense, then please feel free to share with us. I think we'll be glad to learn. This other article came out along with the first one, that is mostly profitable despite dwindling. I think this is a slightly misleading article. Let's just see why. Mostly profitable, 110,000 transactions so far, 38 of them, at least 2 transactions, 27 are profitable, 11 made a loss. And then this one is the same one just now as 800,000. Maybe it's slightly different, 800,000. The seller bought the house last time, 2001. At this kind of price, made 400,000+, which is not too shabby, $100,000+ ROI. But if he bought another house back then, I think maybe back then he buy HDB also can make the same amount. So I don't think this is a very lucrative amount. There are a lot of other people that make a lot more. So this, during that period of time, if you are old enough to get into properties, you would have made quite a lot of money if you make the right investments. Then the funny thing is, this guy bought this particular 4,100 square feet unit. Last time he was a HDB upgrader. That's the thing. Most of the HDB upgraders are not as financially savvy, but more of like, they are not as savvy in the property market as they would think they are. Because I hear say a little bit, or my mom say this one, or my uncle say this one, or my friends say this one, and then I piece together this, and that's why I trust people that are closer to, and there is a group thing kind of thing. And that's why you have quite a lot of people who buy into town area freehold. As long as freehold you buy already, and then now you realize they're stuck, and then they are losing hundreds and thousands of dollars, or maybe millions of dollars. And that's the kind of dangers of group thing that most people will be exposed to because of people around them. They probably think that it's not going to go wrong, and then eventually, government is going to bail them out because of how government occasionally on block something here and there. Then maybe the ultimate landowner will bail them out, or whichever. Last time they bought at 700,000+, and then it was sold for 450,000 only 3 years later. Loss of 300,000. This guy is a saint, man. $300,000. I didn't say insane. He is a saint. Why? Because he helped the second one save $300,000 in 3 years. That means he helped the buyer that bought from him save $100,000 a year. I really need this kind of saint in my life. So, but this guy insisted that not the buyer, by the way. he insisted that all these homeowners are not speculators, of course. Because they justify that it's 7 years. I really don't think so lah. Maybe this guy tried to be a speculator and then failed terribly lah. But this is, at that point, is really not the time to be speculating. You need to know what kind of house are you actually buying into, what are the fundamentals, what is your anchor point. Then that will be your, in a way, the real calculated risk rather than really not working on the numbers. Then this Mr. Eddie, he sold his place, but he put it on the market for 8 months before he can get the price that he wanted. 8 months to sell property is not a short amount of time. This shows that there's a difficulty. Why? Because if you think about it, the buyers will still have to pay for the house in cash, because if you only have 10 years past lease left, most of the banks will not be willing to lend you the money. Most of them, I think, if you have at the end of the loan term still left with 30 years of less, most of them may not even want to lend you money already. And most people don't really factor that in to realize that buyers are facing this kind of problem. That's why the demand is not as high, and probably that's why the prices are that cheap. Even though the size is lucrative, I also want to stay in the, I never stay in the landed lah, but I also want to stay in the landed lah. So come on guys, it's about fairness, right? Of course. Unfortunately, if I'm born in a silver spoon, I get a landed house fast, then okay lah. But sometimes things in life is worth fighting for it. So let's see. There are a lot of others that put their homes up for sale, and then these are the prices. Properties that are 50 years and older have not increased significantly over the past 10 years. Which is quite obvious. First thing is cost of maintenance. Second thing is depreciation. Then we take a look why depreciation. Because for those of you who are not very clear, the Bala curve, it basically means that your first few years of the lease, it doesn't erode that fast. But the last 15 years, you can see all these of course are theory. It's not like confirmed real lah. We are not saying also, because this Bala curve assumes that the property or freehold, they will hold their value. But we also know by now that freehold properties does not always hold their value. That's something that we need to be clear of. But this is just assumption, and that's why this is, I would say, is theory. But it kind of holds true to the sense that assuming that at the 15-year mark it holds 40% of the value, then with that for 15 year it will drop to 0, assuming that the lease runs out. But over here, the first 40 years by right only drops about 16%. So over here, you can see the past 10 years, only for 10 years left, right, is 30% of freehold value. Then it drops all the way to 0. And that's why, over here, she said that depreciation may be even faster, which kind of makes sense according to the Bala curve. The rational buyer will not pay significantly more than 10 years worth of rental value for these houses. Which is true, I mean, I'm a rational buyer. At least I would like to think. I would think that I'm more rational than most people already lah. Yeah, I mean, I have the decisions track record to back it up lah. I definitely wouldn't do this kind of thing. Well, I pay 10 years worth for these houses and not gain a single thing. I think this is absolutely ridiculous, especially if I'm in the middle class and I'm trying to break out of this cycle. I'm trying to escape the rat race. But doing this kind of decision is just going to keep me in the rat race longer and longer. And I don't think people who wants to, have the FIRE movement or want to get out of the rat race or want to retire comfortably, these are definitely not the kind of decisions that you want to put yourself into. Because it's definitely going to hinder all your plans for your eventual retirement. Landed buyers feel is affordable. Leasehold landed homes are something at this price. Freehold are already at this price. It's like almost twice the price. So you can see that the older, because all these are, a lot of them, if I'm not wrong, they are like maybe start lease from 1990 something, 1980 something. Whereas all these are the freehold don't have this depreciation kind of issue. But you can see the divergence is almost like 50%, maybe like 60%. Okay, my it's a little bit, it's at midnight already. My math is not really mathing right now. But so this Mr. Cole bought this house I think it's the same guy lah. He thinks that it's reasonable for the size. Of course, it's reasonable for the size, but it's not reasonable for the price. That's what I think it is. So anyway, all these are my commentary lah. And renovated somehow there. That's why. But of course, if you want to enjoy the $750,000 for 10 years, I think he has to treat it like a rental basically. Of course, if his money works better, if his business is growing much better for him, then it makes sense for him lah. But he seems to be quite a chill guy because he's like, oh, I think it's reasonable. He's not one. I hope that he's not one of those that's complaining about the lease running out. Then we have nobody is there to help us. He's probably somebody that's just here for investment because ultimately he bought the 500 one, decent rental yield. As I mentioned just now, all these are cheaper than HDB flat, but they have to really acknowledge the fact that the days of owning that house are numbered. For those of you who are still not very clear, if you buy a 99-year lease house and then you sell it off at maybe the 10-year mark, it's not that bad because the value, the next buyer is generally not as far-sighted to think that eventually we're going to have this problem. So that's why they will offer you still a quite high percentage of the value price, your perceived value price. But eventually, as the lease goes further down, and then they face problems like the bank loan thing, then that's when people realize that shit is getting real, man. Then how are we going to cope with this? I would suggest people highly please don't put yourself in that situation, especially if you are trying to have a decent retirement. Okay, why? I think maybe some of you will feel that why are you so agitated? I feel I'm a little bit more emotional in this session than I usually is, because I think reading is not fair, because it concerns people like me. Then like that today, if like that, if eventually I'm gonna be safe, I don't know what, I will sell whatever I have. I'm gonna buy the biggest 10-year lease landed house and go and enjoy it. Then after that, whine and complain that why is nobody there to save me? Right? It doesn't make sense, right? I mean, unless some of you can come out and say, don't worry lah, TT, just go ahead and buy lah. We'll bail you out next time, confirm plus chop. Okay, we'll put money on the line to bail you out. Then I'll go and do it. Nobody is going to cover that. It doesn't make sense for anyone to do it for anybody else. So it's only important that we plan for our own future and be more rational rather than go and buy whatever we want, instant gratification. So we take a look at the profitable transactions over here. I don't really bother looking at transactions that are way beyond because they are at that point of time you buy HDB also can make this kind of money, so it's not really exactly verified. I only look at the past, the fall of this, and if you consider the causes of landed housing, they have a lot of maintenance. The maintenance is not cheap also, by the way. I'm not sure whether you guys realize that whatever you want to do for private side, it tends to be more expensive for quite obvious reasons. So anyway, these guys didn't make money. These guys make some money, but if you factor in all the other causes, taxes and reno everything else opportunity costs these guys are definitely not making money This guy, in case you're wondering, he made money, but this is actually a freehold. Surprise! This one is one of the rare along that street that is freehold, and that's why they are making truckloads more money. And then there's also another bunch of them that lost money, obviously. And then this one was the one that's reported $300,000+ in 3 years. Bought in 2013, sold in 2016, and then lost $300,000. I think that's sad. So this one already seen also the rental rates. But I want to bring your attention to this previous article back in the start of 2021, soon after we emerged from the COVID period. Why? Because these guys assume that the government is going to build them up. But unfortunately, they didn't. Can they build them? I think so. But did they? No. Why? Because the message was very clear that, hey guys, you really gotta go. When you gotta go, you really gotta go. if they keep on bailing all these people, how are we gonna have enough money? Because land is money, man. How are we gonna have enough money for the next generation? We have to plan ahead, and that's why it's only fair for the government to do this. I don't think the government is to be blamed. This is the first time a residential plot has reached the end of its lease, and then this kind of thing will happen. And this definitely will happen when people take things for granted in Singapore. So we don't want to be in this kind of situation lah. Remember, like what I mentioned just now, we are trying to escape the rat race cycle. If you are trying to enjoy a lifestyle, then don't save for the future. They may think that you are saving by buying a cheaper house. Yes, but most of the time when you buy a cheaper house, when you have excess cash, what happens is people go for holiday. People go and buy the new car, go and buy the iPad, iPhone, everything new. Everything is expensive, more and more expensive. And then you work hard, you get income, then you pay the bills, then you enjoy again until eventually it comes to the stage that the lease runs out. And then you realize that shit is getting real. And I've been leading this kind of lifestyle that I always wanted. And then now that I haven't really saved properly, because my property is not retaining that kind of value that I thought it was, then how am I going to cope with my retirement? That's why I think it's very important. I cannot emphasize enough that people plan for delayed gratification rather than instant gratification. Unfortunately, most people are belong to this lah. No matter how, I talk to a lot of clients already lah. Most of the clients are, even people who come to me on YouTube, most of them end up emotional. So it is only very rare that I see people ATD. I don't care lah. You just tell me, you just share with me what are the most logical process and decisions. Then we go ahead with this very small percentage. I would say only less than 10 to 20%. The rest are like this. I want it now. I want it where I am. Although I'm concerned that it will lose money, but eventually I cannot forgo that whatever wants that I have, and that's why they may think most people want. I think most people it's like most people they will think that they are in the 20%, but actually they are in the 80%, or whichever it is. They may think that they are the top 20% smart category, but maybe they are in the 80%. Now that I mentioned, maybe I will always think that of course I'm in the top 20 lah, but maybe I'm here so I would like to still think that I'm top 20, okay, whichever it is, but nobody can really justify whatever lah. But most people will still, I would say maybe 80% of the rule, 80% of people will be here, 20% will be like this. Because if you think about it those people who bought this landed at very cheap price it's like, I would say if you compare, right, maybe the rich people, the rich friends that we have, they are rich, but they don't dress, they don't behave, and they don't buy a lifestyle that is what you expect to be rich. Then some people are not that rich. They are not that rich, but they have that kind of rich lifestyle that they like to paint a picture that they are having basically that influencer kind of lifestyle. So which one we want to be with? I would like to believe that I prefer to be in the same bunch of friends as the first group lah, because I don't see the need for branded. I don't need validation from other people on my dressing. I don't need people to judge me whether I'm successful or what based on whatever that I'm wearing, branded, that kind of thing. It doesn't buy me happiness to make other people happy lah. I can't be bothered lah. I'm more bothered about whether I can retire in peace lah. So to me, I did definitely this ever since I think maybe since last time I would say since young, it's more about that daily gratification. It's like basically why do we work out? Why do we exercise? It's painful. I work out almost on a daily basis. In fact, I'm gonna work out later already at this hour. It's tough, but you're gonna reap the health benefits. So why would people want to put yourself in that kind of situation? I don't know. I think that is food for thought. So anyway, that will be all we have for today. Hopefully you stay woke, stay rational. We don't put yourself in that kind of situation. If you have any questions on property, just text me. I'll be happy to help. Okay, that will be all we have for today. See you guys. Bye bye.